we respectfully acknowledge the Turrbal and the Yalgara people as the traditional custodians of the land in which this video was filmed.
Hi, I'm Crystal Kinsella. I'm a proud Jarwin and Wiradjuri woman, a supply diversity expert and a published author. Welcome to Meet the Mob, a YouTube series dedicated to showcasing Blak excellence in business. I get to interview deadly First Nation business owners from around the country and learn about their why. Today I'm joined by Carol Vale from Morrowind, who will share with us her why she got into business and does what she does. So to kick it off, tell us a little bit about yourself, Carol.
Absolutely. So, Marang Barang everyone, my name is Carol Vale. I'm a Dunghutti Gumbaynggirr woman, so just next door to you down there in New South Wales. Let me also acknowledge country. I'm up here on the lands of the Turrbal and Jagera people here in downtown Brisbane. I'm the CEO of Morrowind. Morrowind is a leading consultancy firm and we work nationally. Our absolute goal in our work is to create impact for Indigenous Australians and through our work to drive the change that we know is necessary.
Yeah. It's actually a really big honour to have you join me today because we've known each other for such a long time. You've always been a supporter, but you've always been somebody that I've really looked up to and admired, and so it's just such a privilege to hear a little bit about who you are and what drives you. So kind of leads me into my first question. Can you share with me your why? What gets you out of bed every day?
Yeah, look. So last week I became a great-grandmother.
Wow.
You know, I'm a great-grandmother. I have 10 grandchildren, 2 more on the way. So that's a nice dozen. And at the heart of what I do, and absolutely at the heart of my why, is creating a legacy for my grandchildren where they will have choice. And that choice is about, it's about improving their life outcomes. And if we get it right for our families, Crystal, we will get it right for anyone else that, any other Indigenous Australian in this country. So why I do what I do is because I want to break cycles that perpetuate harm for Indigenous Australians across this country, whether that be for men or women or children. And our work is, absolutely aimed at breaking those cycles, but creating a mindset of empowerment. Of if she can do that, then I can do that as well. So I grew up on an Aboriginal mission there on the outskirts of Armidale. And I look back, and I think I want my story for little girls that grow up on missions to think, you know what, she's there, I can go there as well.
Yeah. Being what you can see. And choice is a privilege, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it's empowering when you have lots of options in front of you and you're creating that and that legacy.
Yeah. We've and we have known each other for a long time. I always think back to Department of Education days and up there in Oxford Street, up on the, I don't know, what was the 20th floor or something, and we both have worked in the public policy arena, and for me it is that public policy drives good practice, and so the work that we all do is about driving that change. Leaving a legacy is really important to me and to the work that we do. And it's not about it's not about having my children and my grandchildren, have feelings of entitlement. Because they, I certainly, they are involved in my business. Even the grandchildren, they have little. I don't give them pocket money. I give them pieces of work. Yeah. And so they are on the Morrowind. They are on the Morrowind books already for doing pieces of work. And so it's about creating this mindset of work, and of creating a mindset of sort of. It's about empowerment, but wealth creation, because wealth creation provides opportunities for people to live where they choose to live, go to the doctor when they choose to go. It's all of those things. It's about breaking cycles of poverty, Crystal, and that's fundamental to the work that I do.
Yeah, and I've heard you speak a lot about that, nothing for nothing. Someone rings you up and says, here, can you help me with this? And you'll be like, well, can you do this job? And then I'll pay you, or I'll help you out.
That's
exactly.
Right. So the family or the cousins or the brothers, sisters, because I shouldn't just pick on my own family. But yeah, we have mob, right? And so they will ask for, one sister say, can you give me a loan of a redback? And she was an incredible artist. And I said to her, well, you know what, I won't give you a loan of the redback, but I said, can you do me a piece of art, for this part of my project, and I will pay you, and then you don't have to pay me that, that redback back, and you'll get more than the redback. So it's about creating these mindsets of, pick up your tool, develop that product, on-sell it to somebody else, and that's income generation.
That's it.
And that's at the core. Again, that stuff is fundamental to me.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So talk to me about Morrowind and the kinds of consultancy projects you work on, and how, you're on the other side of government now, working on the outside, but potentially working in.
Yeah, look, we do a lot of work with government. I've got that public policy background, and so governments, did a lot of work in that government arena. We're a consultancy firm, so we do evaluation research. We do, and we sort of travel the country doing that work. But some big pieces of work we've done of late is the State of the Environment report that was just recently released, and where we got to travel the country, listening to Indigenous people speak about what's important to them about the environment and how that is connected, not just to it's not just that sort of, that land management stuff, but it's about spirituality. It's about, and what they were speaking about, how country is all out of whack. It's all out of whack because of, the way that land is being used and developed. And so we State of the Environment was one of those big pieces of report. I know that you've just started doing some work here in Queensland as well in the child protection space. So we have done, and I was supposed to go to that meeting, but wasn't well. But we do a lot of work in the child protection space here, and so again, it's about we do these evaluation of reports and policies. Looking at, what are the insights that come from those programs being implemented, and what's the learning, and what are the voices of Indigenous people saying to improve the way that government and others do their work. So, so we do a lot of evaluation research. We do a lot of we're doing a lot of work with in infrastructure development space at the moment around place strategy, and so that's really exciting, because what that work is about is where we will work with people from the local communities, and help to embed their stories and their insights into these projects, so that there's an economic and a social outcome for local people. So that's really important, that piece.
Pretty empowering.
Pretty
empowering.
The other piece that I wanted to share, and this is a real love of mine, is that I'm really keen to contribute to growing the Indigenous female-led business sector. And I've spoken to you and many of my other, sisters in business about this. But I really believe if we can grow that Indigenous female-led business sector, then we will see a significant closing of the gap disadvantage across our country. So yes, we know Indigenous businesses will employ our people, and we will give back, significantly. But if we can empower our girls and our women to step into the business space or the entrepreneurial space, then we will see that closing of the gap, because that will bring their communities. We all bring our communities along with us. And so I have a program called Titters in Business, and Titters in Business is about bringing Indigenous, non-Indigenous women together to do business, whether it's women business, whether it's healing and well-being, or whether it's business acumen. And our gig is too big for us to do alone. We need to be collaborating with our non-Indigenous, sisters in this space to drive the economic change. It's not acceptable, Crystal, when every year our Prime Minister tables the Closing the Gap report, and every year they speak about the failure to meet the targets. That's not acceptable. So for the last 10 years, they've been saying that. So we've got to, I really think Indigenous businesses are part of the answer to closing the gap. Significant part of the answer.
I do as well, and I think
I know
that's what drives me, because I just think of
Yeah.
it's not just about the generational wealth that's created, and that can have a flow-on effect, but it's how you feel in yourself, purpose, the learning, realising potential, that's empowering, self-growth, self-development. And when we empower our women, because us, we're predominantly the backbone to our families, to our communities, I don't know, everything kind of, I think, falls into place, doesn't it?
And it's different from our non-Indigenous sisters, that, we are all there, sort of aiming for the same goal, but theirs is, I think ours is a much more collective approach to it, and it's an intergenerational, aspect to it. So I think it's exciting times. It's exciting times, but it's about changing the paradigms and the environments that our girls are coming into. So it's not just the humanities side and social sciences. It is economics. It is commerce. It is about that development space. And I also think that as Indigenous women here in Australia, we have the opportunity to be a global citizen. And again, and I know you know this stuff as well, because it's about how do we leverage off us being here in Australia, and the work that we do as Indigenous business women with our sisters in the Pacific and Southeast Asia and other First Nations women in Canada and New Zealand and others. And imagine us coming together as a global collaborative, a global collective, and the impact that would have on addressing disadvantage experienced by women of colour, but also First Nations communities. I think it's mammoth, and I just think we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, most definitely. And there's so much we can learn through the different countries. And I've had a lot of time in New Zealand and working with Māori women across the Tasman. And there's elements where they're a little bit in front of us, and there's elements where we've done things, but together it is really quite powerful.
We cherry pick.
Yes.
We cherry pick. and I just think there is, the work that needs to be done is massive. And so it's about, us doing this together. I talk about doing the dance. Love dancing, right? So I also always talk about, you do the dance, when to step in and when to step out. And, and it's just, you learn to synergise and do this together. And we've got to do it with our non-traditional partners. I deliberately seek out my non-traditional partners, who for me, if I grew up on an Aboriginal mission on the outskirts of Armidale, then my non-traditional partner is that white male that lives in Mossman, in corporate real estate there in Sydney. And so I have sought him out because I want the insights that he has, just so that he can also learn the insights from what I have. And I think that's powerful stuff when you bring the two together.
That's a really interesting concept, because I haven't heard anybody quite openly speak about that. But that it's mutual, it's reciprocal.
Absolutely.
Learning from each other. And I mean, because there's always this sort of cliche about sort of the white middle-aged man dominating boardrooms or dominating this or dominating business. But then to get inside his head, but then also to have that cultural exchange back.
And it's not about becoming him. It is about, what do I need to understand that he knows, or of his world, that I need to adapt for my world, and just, and it is that walking in two worlds.
It is.
I just think, I just think we've got to be creative. Be creative, but be forceful. I've been in quite a number of meetings the last few weeks, with other female groups, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, and we keep we keep hearing conversations about the imposter syndrome, and I understand that, but I do think it's different for Indigenous and non-Indigenous women, all of that, because we have things that we have to contend with where they will never have that, and even women of colour, that is different for First Nations women. We are First Nation. This is our traditional country. And so there's different aspects there. But the imposter syndrome, I think, for Indigenous women, it's like as if we have to leave shame at the door. We can't bring shame in the room with us. And I also think, as an Indigenous woman, we don't get the opportunity or the luxury to fail publicly.
No.
Or to mess mess up. That's probably not a good word, but to really stuff it up, because if we stuff it up, then the whole, we run the risk of the Indigenous business sector being tarred with that same brush. So it's like that we have to work like 150%, because we've got to contend with all that stuff that's systemic racism and cultural biases and all of this other stuff that women have to deal with normally, but Indigenous women have to deal with that added little things there. And so I think the imposter syndrome, we've got to leave that here. Just leave shame there. Come in here because they need us in here. They need us in the room around those boardrooms, but they also need to do business with us because the learning's incredible there.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome is very real, but it's like it is next level because we're pushing down the boundaries and walking a path that not many of our older people or those within our families have ever done. And sometimes people go, "What are you doing?" or "How are you doing that?"
Yeah.
I go, "I'm just making it up as I go along, and I have to just." And I think what helps is that alignment, continuing to align with purpose and values, and the why, and always trying to centre and ground myself in that. And I'm sure that that's what you do, but I think also it's us women sticking around each other and supporting each other's growth. And it's that sisterhood that kind of
I was in a meeting or in a forum there about a month ago, and it was I was the only Indigenous woman in that room, and so these were pretty influential women. And I remember there was one point there when I thought to myself, they are just women. They are just women like me, and that was a real sort of eye opener. And because I think, even more strongly now, I'm of the opinion that our non-Indigenous sisters want to do business with us. We just have to help them to see that somehow. It's some of them, but I think the opportunities there. The opportunities are immense, and I think we are groundbreaking, Crystal. Which means that's a hard ground to break, and so it is about, we need to be supporting each other, but it is about bringing those along with us. Like, I'm really proud of my sort of family line because my daughter Debbie, her business Riley Kelly Resources, so check her out, Riley Kelly Resources, early years STEM. Now Debbie wanted to be, so Debbie's an environmental scientist by background.
Oh wow!
She was working for government. She had little ones. She didn't want to go back to work. She wanted to be home with her children. And so I talked to her. I said, "So you know what, Debbie?" I said, "Look in your toolbox. What's in your toolbox? What's in your knowledge system there that that you can create it? Like, what's the need that you're meeting? You've got little ones here. Where's the gap there? Look in your toolbox. Look at, think about your Dunghuttiness and how can you develop up a product that can be, that you can, create a little business for, so you can be home with your babies." Now, Riley Kelly Resources is now a certified supplier of Supply Nation. That's so it's fantastic, things like that, and it starts with helping, and she's still at, still at home with her babies. So it's about doing that stuff. I mean, we all got to juggle our world. Part of my transition plan is, bringing my daughter into, to be one of the other daughters, to take over one day, be the CEO of Morrowind. And so that's always about creating, these sort of, steps in for our family and other members. I'm fully of the opinion that, like Morrowind, like we are very diverse. We have Indigenous, non-Indigenous, and so, but at the heart of it, at the spine of it, is my direct bloodline. Yeah. We've never had a business in our family, never. We are the first one, certainly in my direct family, but probably even I'm trying to even think about, my broader extended family. I'm pretty sure we're one of the, if there is some, they're probably a handful. Yeah. That's it. So that spine of Murawin will be my bloodline. Yeah. And so we're sort of, succession planning is happening already because it'll take years. I didn't grow up in a business family, but my children and grandchildren will grow up in a business family. And
first generation won't be the last generation.
Absolutely. And even my little grandchildren now, like they'll put the glasses on and they'll be at the computer and they say, I'm being nanny, so that's cute. Those grandchildren, you've got to create the environment where paradigms, perceptions, are challenged, but also are born. So they've all been along to my
all that exposure,
meetings, all that. Even the great grandchild, his face was up on a presentation last week. I said, yep, he's going to be part of the line there because you want that. Why can't we have these Indigenous business, generational businesses, Crystal, happening? And the work that you do and others do is part of that. Contributing to the platform where we can shine and thrive and support others.
Yeah. Well, there's so much in that. I mean, your legacy, like first generation here, that flow on, your grandchildren, your children already immersed and having that great exposure in the business.
Yeah.
So, and thinking about your succession into the future. I think if I would just go back to an earlier point, which I thought was a really great kind of thing to ask, where you ask your daughter is, what's in your toolbox? Yeah. Because we all have skills, knowledges, and an ability to create something, to solve a problem, as you say.
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably something really great for our audience to pick up onto.
We really need to understand, it is this bit about, in business, like you're solving a problem. Yeah. Well, as much as we want it to be about us and our passion, but you can have both. You can have both. But it's about, well, what's the problem I'm solving? Who's going to buy my product? Because you can't just sell to cousins and you'll go broke. So you've got to find it. I realised that very quickly, Carol. You can't just talk, to family and your mob and community and those in government that you need to expand. I needed to expand, that network, and that's hard. But then, when you've got people in your corner, that's the beauty of it as well. So others like yourself and others would belong to a great. I think we've got a really collegial Indigenous business network out there. I truly do think that that any one of us could probably pick up the phone and ask somebody else, can you just I want to run this past you, or can you give me give me a contact in this arena. I mean, I know that I will do it, and I know you would do it, and I'm sure others would do it.
Where's that standard operating procedure?
But do you know what I mean? I think we do that. And it's not about.
No.
It's not about I don't. This bit about be careful of not sharing things because somebody might steal your idea. You know what? For me, it's about there's so much work to be done in our communities. Right. There is so much work there, and I just think. And if you think about all the non-Indigenous businesses doing work in our space, then imagine if all of that was being done by Indigenous businesses. There would be no gap. There would be no gap. And so I'm really excited. I'm really excited about the work that we're doing with Titters in Business. And I have this little initiative called the Morning Sky Project, where it's about economic and educational empowerment. And so that's my give back to community. So a bit like you, we'll go and we mentor and we, provide financial supporting opportunities to support things, and because we want to break the cycles, that perpetuate harm. We want to create these new cycles that's about wealth creation, which then leads to choice and well-being. It's all about that.
It is, most definitely. So have you had any kind of final words to leave our audience with? What would that be? Look,
my final words would be around find your Indigenous colleague, partner, sister, brother to do business with. For my Indigenous brothers and sisters out there, keep up the good work, but continue to grow, to grow your Indigenous brothers and sisters in this environment, because there's a lot of work to be done and we all need to be doing this together. Murawin means to be educated in the highest sense and educated in the context of wisdom. And so what comes with that wisdom is responsibility. And that's all about doing this stuff together. We are lucky to be here, right? We work hard, but we're very fortunate to be in this space. And so it's about the give back. And my final words is, let's do this together because there's a lot of work to be done.
Oh, thank you so much. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed the latest episode of Meet the Mob. Make sure you connect with Carol and share her story with your networks. Until next time.